what is involved in having the most successful and organized as possible book launch that you can. So this is going to be a very relaxed introduction into the world of self-publishing and specifically book launching, because there is a lot that goes into it. There is a lot that certainly is involved with it. But hopefully for this 1 hour session today, I empower you enough to get a bit of an understanding into what is required for presenting your book to the public that you have written yourself. So to get you all started, I would like you all to think about one word that comes to mind when you think about self-publishing. And you can write in the chat box if you want, or you can keep it to yourself. But personally, for me, before I published my book for the first time, I definitely felt like, it sounds a bit doom and gloom, but maybe fear was the first word that came to my head when I thought about self-publishing my book. But now it definitely changes to be so much more empowering and feel so much more positively when I think about publishing my book. Alrighty, so now that you've had to think about that word that comes into your head, I also want to alleviate any concerns about having this sense of fear around self-publishing, because it really is an empowering thing. One of the most empowering things that I think I've done for myself. And when I ran the in-person version of this workshop, which is now this webinar version of it, a lot of people actually wrote more positive things than I expected. People were writing words, because I had like a spot for people to put their responses in with the QR code. People wrote things like healing and coming into alignment, which I know isn't one word, but I was really excited to hear that. And I'm hoping that there seems to be, and I'm sure you all can see that already with the book communities that you're a part of, especially online, that self-publishing really is becoming its own behemoth and really can be treated quite seriously as to stand alongside traditionally published authors. It really is changing, and I think it's exciting to see that happen. So I have on the screen here a 10-step timeline that I've put together, and it's not necessarily a be-all end-all for self-publishing your book, but it's certainly something that helped me get from the start to the book launch. And this is something that every single author has to deal with, which is, okay, I've finished the manuscript, gotten to that very, very hard part. I've got that hard part done. It's a momentous occasion, finished my manuscript. Now what? And sure, you could choose to keep it to yourself and not share it with the world. Or if you do make the decision to go ahead and share it with the world, there are some things that some points that you'll need to hit to ensure that you can successfully and in the most organized way launch your book out to the public. So it's also another big adventure in itself. Finishing the manuscript is one thing. Then when we move on to launching it, that is kind of like the next step in getting your book out there. It can almost feel as big of a push it is to write the whole damn thing in the first place. So I'll just go through this timeline very quickly. So at the start, we've got the finish the manuscripts and self-edits. Then I would suggest that you think about choosing a release date. You work backwards from that date, and that date is something that you really want to be as concrete as possible. So then after that, we look at thinking around establishing your author branding and style. So we start to think about, how do I want to be visually perceived in the world? Which I know you think, oh, maybe that's not something that comes to mind when you think about books and the writing and things like that. But as I'll go on to explain more so in detail further on, the visuals of being an author are so important, especially in this hyper connected world that we're in on social media. It is important, and it can be done really well, and it can be really enjoyable as well. It's not so much of like, you know, beating yourself like a dead horse to like say, hey, on social media, buy my book, buy my book. It's not that intense. You just need to be purposeful. So then after we think about our author branding and style, we then look at professional editing. And this is something that is exciting, but it's also something that can't be forgotten or left to the wayside. Same for the next two things, which are your cover design and the layout formatting, which is the internal part of the book. Then we think about, what distribution services do I want to use when I am launching my book? So we'll get into that in more detail further on in the presentation, but just think about when you've seen books or maybe purchased books or read books through Amazon KDP, for example. We've got those as well. So then also we decide, the next part of that is deciding on the launch event. This is very important when we're thinking about perhaps the physical part of how we want to launch the book, or you can do it in an online sense as well. So it's not to say that you may have seen other authors do like a big launch party or things like that, or they might just release it to the world purely online and on their social media sites, or they also might have an online version of a book launch. Whatever it is, doing something is certainly better than nothing, because we also want to generate hype, and we also want to be proud to release it, to let everyone know that this book is out in the world. And then finally, we have, we're on 9, sorry. We think about ordering the actual physical paperback stock, and also merch as well that goes into it. And then we also have the very last part of this is to apply to bookshops and events. So that's just another way to think about distribution and connecting with your audience as well. So let's get into part 1, which is your final preparations in regards to the editing process, book design and formatting, and an introduction to author branding. So author branding really could be its own webinar, I guess, or its own workshop. There's so much that you could get into with author branding, but for the hour that we have here today, I'm just going to focus on going through the essentials. So we've got our manuscript, it's ready to go. We're thinking about maybe the types of themes that we've written in the manuscript, and whether you're a fantasy author, romance author, contemporary fiction, all that stuff. Your branding will also help tell that story. So we start to think about, and maybe you've already thought about this, or maybe not, what's your author name going to be? Now, I know I'm stripping this right back to basics here, but that's something that I didn't think about until I actually finished writing my first book. I thought, oh, what is my name going to be? And there's an argument for using your legal name or something different. Whatever you choose, absolutely fine. It has to be what you want and what suits you the best. For example, why I chose MG Hunt is that I felt like it was gender neutral. I felt like there was still some anonymity to the name that I use for my everyday life. And yeah, I just thought it was good to differentiate that. But again, it's certainly not a requirement to make your author name different to your legal name, but it's whatever you're most comfortable with. Also, then we also think about the professional side of things and how we want to be presented. And visually, it's great if people can associate your author name with you, a picture of you or a logo or both. Anything is fine, but something that we need to think about is a lot of the time, especially in the self-publishing world, which does rely a lot on social media, people want to know you. They want to know and see a visual representation of you. And having your logo or headshot can be a great way, an introduction to say, this is me. And with a headshot too, it really doesn't have, I say this where there's heaps of people that, like heaps of wonderful photographers in the the self-publishing author community, bookish community as a whole, awesome people. I haven't used a professional to get my headshot done, but I will be. That's something on my list of things to do. I used my iPhone to take my photo, which I'll show you in the next slide, for my author headshot. And I put a black and white filter on it, and that was that. So look, you can certainly do that as well, as long as it is giving the professional vibe or the vibe that you want to represent you. You can take it on selfie mode. As long as people can associate something with you, that's the main thing. And then we think about what colors represent me. We think about maybe 2 or 3 colors that represent the aesthetic of what I want to show to the world and what's also in my book. So if we think about, for me, Still Waters Run Deep is the title of my book, and the book cover is blue. So I already kind of knew that I wanted to follow along blue colors associated with myself, but it's a personal decision about what you would like to do. Also, choosing your colors and getting a logo and a headshot and things like that help you work out what your website is going to look like, your social media profile, and any other promotional material there. Now, also the last thing that I would recommend in the author branding introductory stage of this sort of branding chat that we're having here right now is writing your bio or your about section. And it can sometimes feel like a bit like when you get to writing your blurb for your book, and that to me is like, oh my God, how am I going to summarize this body of writing that I've written? And in some ways, that's how it feels for when I write about myself. Oh my gosh, where do I begin? What would people care about? And all that stuff. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be long, and it doesn't have to be super, super unique. People just want to know a few little things about you: where you're based, what genre you write, upcoming books, a few of your interests, maybe some favorite authors. Just keep it simple. People don't want to be overloaded. So let's